Urban legends exist around the world, mostly to keep us from parking in dark places at night or from talking to creepy kids with dark-coloured eyes. But what happens when an urban legend goes viral, causing so much panic that people begin to die because of it? That's precisely what happened in India in 2001, when residents reported some 350 terrifying encounters with what would eventually become known as the Monkey Man of Delhi. Delhi, the bustling capital of India, is home to nearly 33 million people. Not only is it vast, it is also one of the most densely populated cities on Earth, with an astounding 29,000 people per square mile. From towering high-rises to sprawling slums, this bustling metropolis positively teems with life. Despite its status as a major economic hub, however, the city's inhabitants faced significant challenges in the early 2000s. Unemployment and underemployment were widespread amidst the then population of 14 million, and the city's strained infrastructure struggled to keep up. Slums expanded rapidly, with many residents lacking access to clean water, sanitation, or education. These dire conditions were worsened by terrible air quality, with parts of the city perpetually shrouded in a toxic fog from burning refuse, vehicle emissions, and industrial pollution. To add to the misery, power companies implemented rolling blackouts, plunging poorer neighbourhoods into darkness for hours at a time. It was into this chaotic environment that one of the most bizarre cryptids on record first appeared. Said to be anywhere from 4 to 8 feet tall, it had the face of an ape and was covered in thick black or brown fur. He also had glowing red eyes that pierced through the darkness. Those unlucky enough to encounter it say that it preferred to attack at night, leaping at people and either bludgeoning them with weapons or slashing at them with sharp teeth and claws. A few were claimed to have died from direct injuries, but most were reportedly so terrified by the creature that they leapt off roofs and terraces just to escape it. It didn't take long before everyone in the city came to fear the Monkey Man of Delhi. Immediately, people began raising questions as to what the creature might be. Amongst the more religious citizens, talk quickly turned to India's legends. The subcontinent has a rich folklore tradition, one that contains more than its fair share of monsters. From the demonic Rakshasas to the vampiric Fatalities, there is no shortage of beasts believed to inhabit graveyards, caves, and other ominous places. Then there are the cryptids, like the Munde Brung, a 9-foot-tall Bigfoot-like creature said to inhabit the dense forests, or its Himalayan cousin, the Yeti. Could one of these creatures have made its way into the urban environment to wreak havoc amongst the poor? Whatever the case, what follows has been described as either clear evidence of an attack by a paranormal being, or one of the most bizarre and deadly instances of mass hysteria in history. The appearance of the Monkey Man coincided with a heat wave that rocked the city of Delhi in the summer of 2001. For weeks, both rich and poor suffered under the high temperatures, which regularly peaked above 40 degrees. This, combined with the unreliable electricity, meant that many residents could not even power a fan to keep themselves cool. As a result, many chose to sleep outside on balconies, terraces, and roofs. Whilst this provided some relief from the heat, it also exposed them to the noxious air, and, it seems, something much more dangerous. One particularly hot night, 37-year-old Prakash Chand, a factory worker, decided to sleep out on his terrace whilst his family stayed inside their apartment. A resident of the slums, the Chand family had precious little space between them, and the searing heat would have made it almost unbearable in the tiny ramshackle flat. Prakash later reported that he had placed a rug on his balcony, where he listened to the sounds of the city before eventually falling asleep at around 1 AM. However, his peaceful slumber would not last long. At around 4 AM, Prakash said he was jolted awake. Though he couldn't see anything in the pitch darkness, he later reported being aware that there was something on the small balcony with him. Without warning, Prakash was struck hard on the arm before something large and heavy jumped on top of him. Though he was unable to get a good look at his attacker, he said he could hear it, growling and snarling as it repeatedly pummeled him about the face, neck and head. The attack only lasted a few seconds, and Prakash reported that whatever had attacked him had simply disappeared into the darkness afterwards. Worried for his family, he made a call to the authorities, stating that he had been attacked by something strong, well-built, and not human. It was only then that he learned that he was not the only one to be attacked in the slums that week. Police said that in total, some 20 victims had reported being pounced on whilst walking alone at night or sleeping out on rooftops. Many of these came away from the attack with deep scratch marks and gouges on their arms, faces and necks. The victims also reported that after the brutal attacks, the creature seemed to simply vanish. As the weeks passed, there were even more reports of attacks and encounters with the strange creature. Despite the fantastic claims, the Delhi police had no choice but to treat the situation as seriously as the public. They hired more than 3,000 temporary officers to patrol the streets at night, looking for anything out of the ordinary. They also released a series of sketches based on eyewitness accounts, but these mostly served to add to the confusion. As the attacks grew more frequent, the descriptions of the Monkey Man of Delhi took a turn towards the bizarre. In these new reports, he would sometimes appear clothed, often wearing a metal helmet. Other eyewitnesses reported that the beast had a halo, like an angel, and that it could jump more than 30 feet at a time. Still others claimed it was not covered with fur, but feathers, and that it disappeared so easily because it could fly. At least one person reported it being on roller skates. The resulting sketches were difficult for many to take seriously, but for the people living in the slums, the Monkey Man was a deadly reality. After all, a significant number of sightings had been accompanied by injuries. Some people were scratched, others knocked to the ground and punched, whilst others were simply scared out of their wits and injured themselves trying to get away. At least one man died after tumbling off a building in panic when his neighbour screamed to alert him of the Monkey Man's presence. The local media only played into the hysteria, interviewing anybody and everybody with scratches on their arms or a scary story of their own. Even with the extra officers, younger Delhi residents soon began patrolling the streets with axes and sticks. This led to more than a few cases of mistaken identity, as the mob mentality took hold inside the slums. Police filed numerous reports of armed groups attacking innocent bystanders, or of people being trampled on amidst a rush to escape or attack the mysterious creature. Despite the circulating rumours regarding the Monkey Man, the heatwave and blackouts forced tens of thousands of people to continue sleeping out on their balconies every night. For this reason, attacks occurred daily, sometimes as many as a dozen in 24 hours. Police records tell of one young girl who had decided to sleep outside for the evening, only to awaken in the middle of the night to find a hairy, inhuman hand resting on her thigh. Hearing her screams, the girl's mother bounded out of the apartment with a broom, swinging it wildly at whatever was near her daughter. This led to a whole new slew of rumours that the Monkey Man was targeting young women, hoping to kidnap them and take them back to its lair. By this point, the people of Delhi had been worked into a near state of anarchy. Every night they would go to sleep in fear, and every morning, the news would report another series of incidents, injuries, and sometimes deaths. The most prominent example of the Monkey Man actually causing a fatality can be found in the tragic tale of an individual simply known as Suman. Suman was a 27-year-old pregnant woman living in the slums of East Delhi. Family members said that the heat, coupled with her being pregnant, had been making Suman miserable, and that she'd been having trouble sleeping. As a result, she had chosen to sleep out on the terrace one fateful night. Temperatures had been peaking at 42 degrees Celsius, and much of the neighbourhood had decided to brave the night air, likely believing there was safety in numbers. At some point in the early hours, Suman had been awoken by screams from her neighbours, shouting that the Monkey Man had arrived. Apparently unable to get inside, she tried to flee down the stairs from her terrace, but in her panic, she lost her footing and ended up falling to the ground below. Sadly, she later died in hospital from her injuries. The only other confirmed fatality remains unidentified to this day. Police reports describe the unknown man as having suffered grievous wounds about his face, neck and abdomen, which eventually led to his death. Whilst tragic, police stated that the victim's body proved to be a crucial piece of evidence in their efforts to solve the Monkey Man phenomenon. Then Joint Commissioner of Police, Suresh Roy, reported consulting with doctors about the wounds that had been inflicted. Many of them were confirmed to be bites of some kind, though the doctors could not definitively match them to any known animal. Upon checking with officials at Delhi Zoo, the police confirmed that all animals were accounted for. Whatever had killed the man either lived in the city itself or the surrounding natural areas, and since the victim was not eaten, the creature's motives for killing were clearly not related to survival. In total, there were nearly 350 documented incidents and reports related to the Monkey Man of Delhi over a period of 3 weeks. Nevertheless, no animal or human was ever photographed, let alone caught. Moreover, the incredible variety in the descriptions of this strange entity has raised many questions as to just who or what it might have been, and whether it even existed at all. The first theory is that there was indeed an attacker of some kind lurking in the darkness of the Delhi slums. Whether it was a disfigured human, giant monkey, demon, or something else entirely is less important than proving that it was actually there. Its existence seems to be supported by the numerous injuries inflicted, and the fact that many of them seem to be bite-like lacerations. Some say it was a case of mistaken identity. Due to the pitch-black conditions, residents simply confused a local monkey or other animal for something larger and more sinister. Others say nobody could possibly mistake the types of monkeys native to India for a 5 to 8 foot tall creature. The largest species in the region, the grey langur, peaks at just 2 feet tall and 44 pounds in weight. For the majority of Delhi residents, however, the Monkey Man was nothing short of being supernatural in origin. This would explain why it was able to attack so swiftly and then completely disappear. Some have even theorized that it may indeed have been a demon or mystical being with the ability to shapeshift, much like the Skinwalker of North America, or phase between dimensions. Finally, There are those who believe the Monkey Man was entirely human, or a group of several humans, possibly in disguise. Whether they were pranksters or had criminal intent is still up for debate, but proponents of this theory say this is the only way to explain the size of the animal and the fact that it was often witnessed wearing clothes. Still, scientists and researchers around the globe have a different opinion. To them, the Monkey Man was a perfect example of mass hysteria, one exacerbated by higher than average heat, blackouts, and media sensationalism. It's true that as the initial reports of the Monkey Man attack spread, fear and anxiety grew amongst the city's poorest residents. This collective apprehension may have caused people to misinterpret sounds, shadows, or even common animals as being the Monkey Man. When we look into the reports, many of the worst injuries seem to involve people running from things they didn't actually see and harming themselves in the process. Suman, the pregnant woman, only ever heard her neighbour's screams and fell to her death in an effort to escape. Prakash Chand, the man sleeping on the balcony, didn't get a good look at his attacker either. Only the unnamed man who died of his wounds provides any physical evidence, yet he was sadly never able to describe to anyone what had assailed him. It's worth noting that animal attacks are relatively common in India, with bears, leopards and tigers accounting for dozens of deaths each year. Could he have been the victim of an unrelated animal attack that simply got lumped in with the growing hysteria? Finally, there's the matter of the reward. Shortly after the stories began circulating, Delhi police announced a 50,000 rupee reward for information leading to the capture of the Monkey Man. As anticipated, this led to a flood of new calls and reports. However, many of these turned out to be hoaxes or lies trumped up in an effort to claim the money. It's impossible to ignore that the vast majority of the victims, around 94%, were from the poorest areas of the city, while some 89% of these were of low socio-economic status. After the sightings died down, police reported discovering that some people had faked injuries for medical and media attention, whilst others reframed existing unrelated injuries as stemming from encounters with the infamous interloper. Of course, none of these revelations ever received anywhere near the amount of attention as the Monkey Man sightings themselves, leaving many residents convinced that all of the encounters had been equally legitimate. For many, it's difficult to accept that the citizens of Delhi could react so violently without the presence of a real physical threat. After all, even mass hysteria events do not occur entirely in a vacuum. But as to what exactly was happening during those few months in 2001, there's almost no way to tell. What we do know is that the situation in the city at that time was far from ideal. The people in the slums where most of the sightings occurred were poor, malnourished, and often suffering from heat or air quality related illnesses. Could they have conjured the Monkey Man up from nothing? Or did someone or something simply use the conditions of the crowded slums as cover for their nefarious deeds? Unless the Monkey Man appears again, we may never know. For now, the phenomenon remains an unsolved mystery, with multiple theories offering little in the way of explanation for what happened. Even if it was simply a case of mass hysteria, pranks, misidentified animals, or some combination of these factors, the incident serves as a fascinating example of how fear and rumour can rapidly escalate into a full-blown urban legend. We do know that the current population of Delhi has recently crossed 33 million. With so many people living in the city, it would be difficult for a large animal or other strange creature to hide forever. If the Monkey Man is still out there, it will only be a matter of time before someone spots him again. Unless, of course, he truly was supernatural.